Dr. James Aranda warns the people about being exposed to the supermoon in an interview. He talks about an incident that occurred a year ago because of a supermoon, during which over 1 billion people around the world suffered violent mutations, transforming them into terrible creatures when exposed to moonlight, and says they are working on a solution. We see a little girl paying tribute to her father along with her family. Wesley Marshall, a former soldier, is working on barricading the entire house to ensure more safety. He spreads several traps around the house and electrifies the fence and sets up an external monitoring. His neighbor, Reagan, knocks on the door and leaves some candy for Emma. Lucy hands Reagan some useful items for that night and asks her to take care. Wesley goes to his oblivious neighbor, Cody, and asks him to stop irresponsibly practicing shooting, since there are children on the street and he has just shot one of his fuel cans. But Cody says he is just preparing for the hellish night they will face soon, where it will be every man for himself, and Wesley informs Lucy that the house is all locked up. She reminds her of the survival rules of not opening the door for anyone and not making any noise and avoiding attention. He tells her to shoot without hesitation to defend Emma from anyone. After saying goodbye to his niece, Wesley assures her that nothing will harm them. He hesitates, but Lucy insists that he must go to the scientists, and he leaves, locking up the girls. In the streets, a real commotion is taking place as people rush to get to safe places. In a press conference with scientists and military officials, Dr. James unveils a team. The team was dedicated to finding a solution, which included Wesley as an integral component. The team has produced a serum called Monner that blocks the supermoon with human DNA. Dr. James says supermoon night will be crucial to finding an effective cure. After wishing everyone luck, scientists and military officials instruct volunteers to test the serum. They expose them to moonlight at night, and the goal is to discover a cure and if the serum works. One of the test subjects is Miles, the husband of scientist Amy, and he is then bound with strong chains and locked in a massive cage, with the sun already hiding on the horizon, and the population enters a countdown to the worst moment. Wesley and others from the team wear special suits to avoid mutation from the light of the supermoon. They head to where the test subjects are kept, and besides Miles, the other 3 are a woman and 2 men. The place then enters a countdown for the total influence of the supermoon. The scientists prepare the woman, and she starts to panic, saying she has changed her mind. She asks to leave, but it's too late for that, and soon the roof of the testing shed opens. It reveals a giant blue moon in the sky, and none of the volunteers transform. It appeared that the serum worked, and the scientists become excited and prepare for the next step. Meanwhile, on street, we see a shadow passing quickly, alerting Cody and Lucy. She is with her daughter, and the lights in the houses begin to flicker. Lucy looks at the monitors, but sees nothing unusual, and Reagan calls for her mother. She does not answer, and Reagan becomes frightened, and suddenly there is a standing monstrosity behind her. Meanwhile, in the testing wing, Dr. James enters the area where the volunteers are. Wesley displays the serum fighting the mutation and says it is a latent defense reaction linked to the supermoon. James asks why this is happening only now, but Wesley still doesn't know the answer to that. Suddenly, Miles starts to feel something, and his body begins to enter a state of mutation. James instructs them to spray the serum on him quickly, but Miles snatched the machine with his hand, which was already partially transformed, and the monster throws the device away. Chaos begins in the area, and other 3 volunteers also begin to transform. Amy orders them to close the door, but facility system malfunctions, and the volunteers transform. That turn into monsters, and Wesley realizes that Miles has also been exposed and is mutating. He tries to apply a tranquilizer, but it does not work, and the transformation completes rapidly. He attacks one of the scientists running, and Wesley carries his injured colleague to a safe place. Another scientist shoots desperately in all directions in an attempt to hit the monster. The werewolves attack and kill the scientists, including the one with the gun. Some scientists are being escorted by military personnel outside. Amy is trying to get out, and she ends up encountering Wesley and the injured colleague. They hear a roar from the corridor ahead and change direction to enter another room. The monster catches sight of them and runs to grab them, but they barely manage to lock the door. Lucy is horrified by the footage of the beast, and Cody is waiting for the monsters to approach. He shoots at one on a tree, and Wesley's colleague and Amy's injured friend dies due to injuries. Amy wants to remain till help arrives, but Wesley believes they won't get aid, and they'll die if they stay. Amy reminds him that leaving those walls means confronting the Moonlight and becoming monsters. But he says they can use the serum formula, and Cody is still on high alert, aiming outside, when suddenly a freezer comes flying through the window, throwing him away. Then he is exposed to Moonlight and begins the transformation process. Wesley and Amy sneak in the facility, avoiding the path of the creatures until they arrive in a room. They prepare what they can, and they know the serum's effect lasts about an hour. Wesley sets a clock. He tells her that if one of them transforms, the other must go on alone. When they leave, they encounter Miles, and Amy stops Wesley from shooting. She fires first at a gas container to stun the beast, and they manage to escape and get into a car. Wesley's current goal is to get to Lucy's house, and on the way he calls to check on her. Lucy tells what is happening, including that she saw one of the werewolves invade Cody's house. Then she hears someone calling her from outside, and turns out it's Reagan. She is screaming for help outside and covered with a tarp and has not transformed. Lucy, in despair, wants to help but knows the risk take, and on the phone Wesley shouts for her. He tells her not to open the door for anyone and reminds her of the rules. Lucy is desperate. Seeing her neighbors so exposed, decides she will help her, and through the sound system. She asks her to stay calm and says that she will be right there. However, it's too late. One of the creatures jumps on Reagan, dragging her away, and a bus advances in front of the car Wesley is in with Amy, and they collide. After failing to communicate with Wesley anymore, Lucy watches as the werewolf devours her friend. She dissolves into tears, and outside, the monstrosity lets out a terrifying roar. Lucy and her daughter are even more horrified, and Wesley and Amy survive the collision. She tries to get out of the car as everything is starting to catch fire and an explosion will occur. Soon, with great effort, the two manage to escape. The werewolf Cody picks up Reagan's body and throws it against the electric fence of Lucy's house, and attempts to disable it, and after telling Emma to stay in a safe place, Lucy saw the werewolf Cody. He is near the electric fence and then activates a pepper spray to the creature's face. It roars in pain, and Wesley and Amy encounter a pack of werewolves vandalizing a car. With no other choice, they decide to try and sneak past them, and unnoticed they go slowly, crouched behind the cars on the other side of the street, but a wolf begins to sniff them. Wesley takes Amy beneath the vehicle, hoping their smell blends with others on the street. The beast arrives and breaks the car windows to find something, and the werewolf crouches near them. It senses the air and leaves, and werewolf Cody tries to relieve the burn in his eyes, pouring all the water. He recovered and lets out a terrifying howl, making Lucy believe that the werewolf has left. Wesley and Amy get out from under the car and saw that the monsters are gone. However, their clock begins to beep and alert the wolves, and they run for their lives. The beast chased them, and they see a supermarket gate closing and ran to get in inside. They see a boy who shows that he was the one who closed the gate and shouts for them to follow him. Suddenly, Amy is immobilized with a blade, and they warn that they are scientists working on a cure. One masked man claims there's no treatment and asks for a reason not to toss them to the creatures. Wesley says he just wants to see his family and use the tunnel beneath the institution for that. The guy promises to take them to the entrance but tells them that they are on their own after that. With cameras, Lucy notices that the street is full of animals assembling for something. Wesley and Amy manage to reach the tunnel and they come across a locked gate. Wesley prepares to shoot and open it when a creature jumps behind them. Before they can shoot, the monster knocks them down the gate ahead and Amy faints from the impact. Wesley is thrown away and the creature lunges at him, but Wesley manages to grab an iron bar and stabs the beast with it, and it dies, and Amy wakes up and helps him up, and they reach the street. But stop to avoid being affected by the light of the supermoon. They cover themselves with tarps. While entering the nearby store, they trigger an alarm, but quickly turn it off. They have another dose of serum for them, but as it's very hot, they need freeze before using it. At Lucy's house, the creature starts destroying the cameras, leaving only 2. Wesley tells Amy that he's been on missions throughout the world and didn't want to raise a family. After his brother's death, he feels compelled to defend his family, but he worries he's not doing it correctly. Amy supports him by stating he's trying and the serum is now at the optimal temperature. While Amy searches for a cold item for the journey, Wesley hears a disturbance and investigates. He finds a girl. He asks how she got in, but when she turns around, he sees that she is transformed and eating a cat, and he warns her not to get close. But she advances and Amy electrocutes her with a taser, rendering her unconscious. At Lucy's house, the werewolves obey Cody's orders and attack the electric fence to break it down. The home lights flicker. Lucy grabs her shotgun and braces for the worst. She watches through the remaining cameras as one of the monsters pushes a post against the fence. This causes house-wide blackout, and Wesley and Amy continue through the streets to reach Lucy's house. They come across a group of heavily armed people uniform protecting against the light of the supermoon. They are shooting a pack of werewolves and drive them off, and Wesley and Amy reveal themselves. They ask not to shoot, but the men do not listen, and suddenly a werewolf attacked one of them. Another shootout begins by Reagan, and Wesley and Amy got caught in the crossfire, and they are losing. Amy has the idea of using herself as bait, asserting that she has a theory that needs testing. She convinced Wesley by saying he needs to get to Lucy, and he asks her not to die. Amy attracts the creature's attention, and one of them approaches with heavy steps. The creature sniffs her without attacking immediately, and Amy stands against the creature. She let out a scream of dominance, and the monster responds with an infernal roar right in her face. Wesley shouts from the top of one of the cars and with an anti-aircraft machine gun in his hand. He starts shooting and shouts for Amy to run and get in the car with him to escape. But before she can get in, a monstrous hand grabs her and drags her up, and Wesley tries to see her. But it's too late, and both the monster and Amy are already out of his sight. Wesley quickly drives away, and Lucy has already wasted several bullets shooting at the ceiling. However, the monsters continue to come, and she does not have enough ammunition. Beyond the ceiling, some others are about to break down one of the doors. Once the bullets run out, Lucy now only has knives and a can of pepper spray to defend herself with. Her daughter, the barricades, and even the ceiling can no longer withstand. So one by one the monsters begin entering the house as Lucy and her daughter look for a place to hide. They heard the sound of a horn outside, and Wesley arrived and is trying to draw the creature's attention. The monsters then gather in the middle of the street, and Wesley advances to run them over. However, the last one, which is Cody, leaps onto the hood of the vehicle, causing Wesley to. Lucy and her daughter are surprised by one of the creatures that advances, breaking through the house wall. They run, and Lucy hides Emma in the wardrobe and waits behind the door for the monster to enter. It goes straight for Emma, and the girl sprays the creature, and Lucy tries to attack it from behind, but is thrown away, and seeing her mother in danger, Emma strikes the beast with a knife. But without success, and just as she is about to be attacked, Lucy grabs an axe and strikes the monster. Wesley approaches the house and calls for Lucy and Emma and sees that they are both alive. Wesley checks if the two are injured and prepares for the next attack, and Cody is still alive. It is about to free himself from the car crushing him against the wall. Out of bullets and with no way to fight against the beast outside, Wesley has one last desperate idea. He bids farewell to the two. He encourages Emma to always be strong and brave as she grows up. Then gives Lucy a watch set for minutes, which is the time left until dawn, and he goes outside. Having already lost the serum's effect, he also transforms into a werewolf to fight Cody on equal grounds. The two beasts then begin the brutal combat, but soon Wesley gains the upper hand and defeats him. Knowing that Wesley is now also one of the monsters, Lucy hurriedly hides Emma in a safer place. She then hears the heavy steps of werewolf Wesley approaching, and she finds one last shotgun shell. Lucy loads her weapon, and before the beast can enter, and she pleads for Wesley within the monster. She asks not harm them, but he approaches Lucy, and she grabs a family photo trying to bring back Wesley. The creature does not attack, but soon rises and lets out a loud roar, causing Lucy to fall. She prepares to shoot when her watch beeps, signaling that the sun is already rising. Then, as a last desperate measure, she shoots at the window to let sunlight in, and the sun shines. Wesley manages to return to normal before causing any tragedy to his family.